I grew up in New York City, in Queens, and my father's a musician, so it seemed like the most natural thing in the world to play music. My parents are from Pittsburgh, but they moved to New York because that's where the bebop scene was happening. My father was a bebop trumpet player in the the 40s and 50s. One trio he had was, my father was Ed. It was Jerry, Eddie, and Tony, so they called themselves the Jet Set. How 60s can you get with that? The Jet Set. So, I mean, music was part of my life right from the beginning. I didn't know any different. Grew up listening to jazz mostly. My mother was very into the bossa nova. One thing that really turned me early, I guess it was 1964. I was just about, 5 or 6 years old, seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And where I didn't even really know what cool was at that time, I thought it was cool. I didn't. And that really changed me. I really dug what they were, the way they looked, the way they sounded, of course, the audience reaction. And that stayed with me. And I even remember the first song I heard was, or the one that stuck with me was She Loves You. She Loves You, yeah. And I just thought that was the greatest song. It stuck in my mind. I said, I want to do that. That looks like so much fun. Well, and then as I got a little bit older, I started getting their records, Sgt. Pepper and Revolver, Rubber Soul, and all that, and I just loved that stuff. That was my first really great love of something that was my own, as opposed to the music I grew up hearing from my parents. I never had anything against the music my parents listened to, but it's nice to have your own thing. And then I started to spread out and listen to the Stones and the Who, and my dad had brought a guitar home from where he used to do some private teaching, and brought it home from the studio with the idea that my mom was going to play, which never happened. And I picked it up and I played, just learned basic chords and learned to sing and play for myself. And we moved from Queens out to Merrick, Long Island. And I was kind of shy, so I didn't make a lot of friends right away. So I started taking guitar lessons. I guess it's been late 1972. And I would practice 2-3 hours a day. And I got much better very quickly. And then I was able to make the switch into playing with a group. My brother all played keyboards, and we found some people and started my first band. It was a band called Hypnocracy, HYPNOCRACY, which was stolen from some stuff that Robert Hunter had written. Well, actually, I think it's in the liner notes for Europe 72. It's something about considering the rise of hypnocracy. And also, I think he referred to it in some of the Grateful Dead newsletters at the time. And we just thought it was had no idea what it meant. Hunter probably doesn't even know what it meant. But I thought it was a cool word. 1971, I guess, I took Working Man's Dead and then later on American Beauty out of the library and really dug it. And slowly started to get into the Grateful Dead. What really turned it for me was hearing their live records when the Skull and Roses came out, and particularly Europe 72. Just loved it. The big turning point for me was seeing the Grateful Dead the first time in 1973 at the Nassau Coliseum, and that was as you know, for a lot of people, your first show turns your life around. When I realized that the Dead I realized from seeing the show and hearing those same songs that I was listening to, say, on Europe 72, and how different they were, how the same they were, but how different they were. I realized that they weren't playing, they were improvising so much. And I guess growing up as a son of a jazz musician, that that felt right to me, instead of playing everything note for note, night after night. I was really turned on by the fact that they were jamming, and even in a basic song, they didn't. Jerry never played the same solo, and that concert turned my life around. As it turns out, it's like the next Dave's Picks that's coming out is my first show, 9/8/73. So I'm excited to get a hold of that. And so right from the start of when I'm playing electric guitar, I'm into the Dead, and we're playing all different rock stuff, but we're right away we're playing. I think Bertha was the first Grateful Dead song I learned to play, and so I've been playing that one for a long time. Then I stumbled into a band called the Volunteers in 1979. There were so many rock clubs that I was able to play 5-6 nights a week just on Long Island. All Grateful Dead band and called Volunteers, which makes no sense to me why it was called Volunteers. At one point, our lawyer told us, lose the name Volunteers. You'll never be able to copyright anything because there's so many organizations that use the Volunteers for America. The University of Tennessee Marching Band is the Volunteers. So they said, you really need to get a name that, especially if you're going to be traveling around the country, and you're going to have merchandise and stuff, you need to have a name that nobody else has. And that's the Zen Tricksters. Coming up with a band name is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because if you're doing it democratically, because there's always going to be one person who hates it. We stayed up almost all night one night coming up with it because we had to have it. It was like the deadline had arrived. So that's when we came up with the Zen Tricksters. So that was the only thing that we could all agree on. It's not easy. And like I say, there's a lot of bad names. But we've always been happy with the Zen Tricksters. At some point, the Zen Tricksters started expanding the area that we played in. And, first it was the tri-state area, then it was New England. We got a booking agent, we started going south. And then out west, we traveled all over the country. Baracco and I got the call to play with Phil Esch and friends in 1999. We were out on the road. I think this was before cell phones. So we pulled over the side of the road, and I called my answering machine at home. There was a message there from Jill Esch asking for Baracco and me to come and play with Phil. And we were like, we couldn't believe it. We were so happy, and we had so much fun. We went out there in it was October 1999, and we rehearsed for about 10 days at the Dead Studio in Novato, and then did 3 nights at the Warfield with Rob Baracco, myself, and Steve Kemmock, and Phil, and John Molo, and Bobby Strickland on saxophone. The thing about the Zen Tricksters and even the Volunteers is we played all Grateful Dead and original music. We always figured, well, the Grateful Dead are always coming up with new songs. Why can't we come up with new songs? We put out 4 albums, 3 albums of original music, and 1 album that was a double live CD all-star gig for a Rex benefit. We had Donna Jean and David Nelson and Tom Constantin. Mickey Hart was there. And the house band for that was the Zen Tricksters. We put that out as a live album. I always dug Donna Jean. I got to see the Keith and Donna band I guess that would have been 1975. And I thought they were great. And so 20 years after Jerry died, at the Gathering of the Vibes, which is a big festival, they were doing a tribute to Jerry. I heard they were doing it, and I volunteered to help put together this big jam. So I got this big list of phone numbers I had to call. You know, they had David Nelson and Peter Rowan and Melvin Seals and Donna Jean and Martine Fierro and all the guests that were going to appear. And Donna was so sweet on the phone, and she said she offered, when she was on the phone, she offered to sit in with the Zen Tricksters when we did our set, and we were just bowled over. We were just beyond happy. We literally met her the day of the festival. You know, we of course we figured out what we were going to perform together. She did a couple of songs with us, and she really loved the band, and we ended up hanging out with her the rest of the day. And so we rehearsed with her, and eventually we just decided, man, we got to do some more stuff together because we were really simpatico. So that became, first we were called Kettle Joe's Psychedelic Swamp Review, and then we realized what an unwieldy, horrible name that was, and we changed it to Donna Jean and the Tricksters. And we ended up doing an album together.
We gotta hide, shelter from the fear, and we need shelter from the soul.
And then we did an album with Donna Jean called Donna Jean and the Tricksters. There's a couple of songs on that album that I co-wrote with Donna Jean, and one of them it's called Shelter. Don and I were very proud of that song, and we didn't feel like we quite nailed it in the studio. So I've been kind of bugging her for a long time. She lives down in Alabama in the Muscle Shoals area, which is, you know, rife with great musicians and studios. That's how she got her start singing in the studios in Muscle Shoals. And I said, you should take that recording into the studio and just beef it up, get better, nice soulful background vocals. And she finally just did it, and we just released it. It's called Shelter, the Muscle Shoals remix. It's Donna Jean and the Tricksters. Oh boy, it just sounds great. I'm so proud of it. It's cool. I got to meet a lot of the original Swampers down there, who were the guys that played on all the R&B records in the 60s and 70s. You know, like Donna Jean, she's on like When a Man Loves a Woman, Percy Sledge, she's on that record. She's on Take a Letter Maria. She's on Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley. You know, that's how she got her start. People don't realize that she's the real deal.
Shelter from the heat, I see the signs. Shelter from the cold, I feel it in my bones.
And then I continued playing with her, and what was the Donna Jean Gaucho Band with Jeff Mattson. She insisted on, that's how sweet she is, she insisted on calling it the Donna Jean Gaucho Band with Jeff Mattson. Dark Star Orchestra, John Kadlicek, who is the founder of the band and the lead guitar player, got the opportunity to go play with Further with Phil and Bobby, and so he had to leave Dark Star. So I knew those guys, and actually Rob Baracco. So I had my best buddy was in the band, and I knew the guys, and the sound man was a good friend of mine too. So I seemed like a logical choice, and they liked the way I played. So now I've been in the band since 2009. I was a little skeptical at first. I don't know if I just want to play Grateful Dead all the time. But one night we're playing 69, the next night we're playing 1990. We're using different gear, we're setting up differently. Keeps it fresh. Oh man, the band has just gotten better and Dino English, our drummer, picks all the shows that we're going to do before the tour, and we get a list. Typically, the day of the show, the crew knows what gear to set up, and the way the band's laid out on stage and all that stuff, and they take care of that. And then, like, individually, we'll listen to the show that we're going to recreate. So not every second of it, because a lot of these shows are 3-4 hours. So to get a real feeling for what was unusual, and how they did transitions, and whatever is relevant to that, maybe some unusual jam they do, whatever it is, we listen to the show, and then we get up on the stage and just we're not copying. A common misconception is that we play stuff note for note, and that's just crazy. I mean, to learn one show note for note would be a monumental task, let alone a different show every night. And it's so contrary to the idea of what Grateful Dead music is about. So we're just well versed in the different eras and the different tones and different arrangements, and that's what we try to respect. And but we're basically all improvising all night, every night. In the fall, we did about 13 shows, drive-in shows, either the cars or the pods, where they are like, you look like you're pulling into a parking lot, and then the people honk their horns instead of clapping, and stuff. It's just really strange. It's hard, but it's certainly better than nothing, So, and that's what how we're starting out here again, same kind of thing. I think it's going to be less the cars and now more the pods. I think that now that the numbers going down a little bit. The other things that highlights of the last few years, we played Red Rocks a couple of times, and that was just wow, nothing like playing Red Rocks. So hopefully we're heading back to more great stuff like that coming up as soon as things really get back to normal. The greatest feeling of all is getting to play with all my heroes. I mean, I've played with so many just pivotal people in my music loving and education I've gotten to play with over the years. For the highlights of my career, I tend to think of as being, the night I played with Rick Danko, or first time I played with Phil, or, I'm singing Box of Rain with Phil Esch, and I go, holy shit, he wrote this song, those kind of moments, becoming, close personal friends with Donna Jean, just so many wonderful things. Because the music all these people have made is just so important to me. It's soundtrack of my life. A few things on that level. It's just remarkable. I think that's really one of the great highlights of my life is having played with so many of my heroes. I feel like I've been so lucky. Playing music is just a joy. It's what I love to do, so the fact that I get to do it and make a living at it, I couldn't be more happier, more grateful.
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, just the progression from you having the idea of doing a talk show to this, to seeing the phrase crawling across the screen, shooting the shit with Guberman and Gans. I mean, it was just a brainstorm and a phone meeting, and look at this, what we're doing now.
A lot of yeses. A lot of back and forth yeses. Yes, yes, yes. Why not?
Why? Yes, and man, that's the improviser's creed right there. Yes, and. Well, we were going to shoot the shit for a few minutes before bringing Jeff in, but here he is. So let's just get right to it.
I am. Can you hear me?
It was,
We can
yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you. It was really fun to watch all that stuff going by about your history and your gigs, and to visit with your friends in the room over here before coming in.
Yeah. How about that?
Thanks for being part of this with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
What about this going back to work thing? You talked at the end of the film there. You were talking about playing shows at drive-ins and stuff, and
Yeah.
that being a little weird. Has this notion of what is a live performance changed at all in the last year?
Well, it's still a live performance. I mean, like I said, we did about 13 shows in the fall, and I was just so glad to get out and play on a stage and with other people. After largely spending a year playing acoustic guitar in my living room, which was great too, but really missed playing with other people on stage, and so yeah, it was different, but the people were still digging it, and they were still, it is weird looking out and seeing like basically a parking lot in front of you, hundreds of cars. But we also did some shows where they have what they call pods, where they have areas squared off that you're supposed to go in and with your people and stay there. And most places really enforce that. And, hopefully that's going to be the case until things get safer. And they are getting safer, obviously, but so that should be good. But
safety is the word to keep in mind. Scott, have you played in front of people at all recently?
I've done a couple of things. They're all very limited. The masks and same deal. Nobody's allowed to dance. And a couple of shows are allowed to dance as long as they stay in the designated circle or whatever. But I played at Iron Springs most recently, which I think you know about, with Robin, just as a duo. And it was, obviously I've been doing these streams nonstop since the whole pandemic began, and which is cool too. And but people clapping and just responding to various things that are happening in the music, even if it's just one person responding to a small little keyboard run I might have done, or even if that happened in my imagination, just to hear the sounds of people being involved it's a huge difference than just playing at home to a virtual audience, I guess we'll say.
Well, I think that I probably mentioned it last time that's one of the things where my long history in the radio business gives me a bit of an advantage, because I'm used to talking to imaginary or invisible audiences.
Yeah, that's right.
So I have to say, Stephen Colbert is an amazing example of adapting to the circumstances, man. The interviews that he's been doing have been so great. It's like fewer guests, greater depth, more honesty, and more fun. And it just feels like that's the way to go in this situation. Is you can't interact with people, then you have to find this way of performing with the sort of the ghost of them or the knowledge of them.
I don't know anything about that. You'll have to fill me in at some point, if not now. About the Stephen Colbert interviews.
Oh, just watch any of them on TV or on the web. He's just done. He's had friends on, people that he has long history with and stuff, but they just like go deeper than the showbiz interviews and just a quick snappy story and plugging the gig. Right. It gets into much better. Like he had Dana Carvey on last week. I hurt myself laughing at Dana Carvey's imitation, his impressions. His Biden, it just went on and on and on. I was like literally in pain. It was so good. But my point is just that you don't have, it's a one-way operation. performing in this mode, right? So you have to have something that you're interacting with, and it tends to be imaginary. I glance over at the discussion on the Facebook feed, but only just to make sure that it's nobody saying your audio's off, right? I don't really interact with people during the show.
Yeah, I go out of my way to actually interact with the comments and stuff, and that really helps to, make it feel like there's some live interaction happening. But
So how much of your show do you spend looking at a screen and responding to people and scrolling and shit?
I generally, in between songs, will check to see the way I have it set up is the program that I'm using will display about 4 comments at a time. So if it seems like something I want to start talking about, or whatever it might be, or a request, I'll definitely involve myself in it.
See, that's the opposite. I should check out what you're doing and see if I can work that into my thing. It would be interesting to be able to interact with people, but I just made this decision early on that looking off screen was not the way I wanted to do this. How do you do it, Jeff?
Same way as you, David. I don't see the screen at all. I just pretend I'm playing to a room full of people, and assuming that there are people out there. There are, but it was pretty bizarre at first. Just playing to this camera, basically, just going on faith that people are watching and enjoying. And, I would make a joke like, everybody's singing along now, and just imagine everybody singing.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid thing to do. Really, it's distributed globally, but what's wrong with having a whole bunch of people scattered all over the globe singing along on Broke Down Palace, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to all be in the same room.
No.
In a way, it's a distributed spiritual effect or something.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with it, and nothing wrong with it. Not to take away anything from it, but I bet all 3 of us would take a couple of car horns blown in between songs instead of chats, online and stuff. I miss performing live, and I miss everything that happens in performing live. But I have found a way to do this that is satisfying and challenging to me, and successful in that I've got a couple dozen people that come every day and encourage me in many, many ways. Sorry, Jeff?
You do it every day, right?
I literally play every day, yes. I've missed about 10 since I started on April 4th of last year.
Holy cow.
And I've played more than 350 different songs, and I've played more than 20 different things that I would call jam, that are just de novo or spontaneous compositions leading into something else or whatever. And I have a few songs that I played upwards of 60 times, but about 150 songs that are kind of in rotation.
That's
and
great.
I keep track of them, and I age things. Like I won't play something more often than 5 days. I keep track of when the last time was that I played something. And I get a lot of requests every day from a couple of regulars. I feel completely loved and appreciated and encouraged as a performer in this mode because of this group of people who are just super supportive.
Yeah.
Amen.
I mean, I've done it very differently in that I played every 2 weeks, once every 2 weeks. And so my next show, which will be not this coming Sunday, but the one following it, will be my last one because I'll be going back on the road. But that'll only be 25 shows for me. But the thing I've done is not repeated any songs at all in 25 shows. And so it'll push me. And then it was always, and I would spend the time 2 weeks and kind of working on the stuff, coming up with an interesting way of presenting this stuff for guitar and voice, and just try to suit the guitar part a little bit, So that's been
what kind of material?
It's kept me playing every day, and that's the main thing.
That strikes me as a lot of work to do for not knowing how big an audience is going to get.
But I was doing it for myself too.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's the challenge you took. you gave yourself. Yeah. What kind of material? Scott was asking.
Oh, well, every show would contain a handful of Grateful Dead songs because I'm sure that's what people like to hear from me, and of course I love them. And I would always do an original tune. I did a lot of Richard Thompson, a lot of Bob Dylan, a lot of Barnes Zevon, actually. That kind of stuff. Anything really that I like. And some of the more obscure, like the Garcia acoustic band stuff, a little more outside thing. And then I've had a few guests on. I had Skip from Dark Star, Skip Vangelis.
Yeah, love Skip.
Times, and I've had Tom Sacosta from the Zen Tricksters on. In fact,
How
he'll
did
be
you do that logistically?
Well, they actually came to my house and played with me. So, we.
Scott and I have done that right here on the front lawn where I'm sitting right now. Scott and I have done that a couple times, and we're getting ready to do it again.
Yeah.
But that's the only, now that I think about it, that's the only, and I did that with Hobbs once.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 times in a year that I've played with another musician. Dang.
It's such a different thing. As soon as you have one other person to play with, it changes the nature of the way you play. You're first of all, you don't have to cover all the bases, and second of all, you're reacting to someone else. It's just
Well, I've used my looper, so I've been able to play with myself on a lot of stuff and take new approaches to things. And I'm really definitely into trying to find a new way to play. So I changed the key and the groove on a lot of songs and used the looper and an echo to make a groove,
Mm-hmm.
So I really do play it really differently every time. And a couple of songs have joined my repertoire that I had never done before and suddenly became like regular pieces for me. Mostly Althea and Days Between. I've completely fallen in love with Days Between.
Oh boy,
that's amazing!
Beautiful song. The one time I know you've met him many times, David, but the one time I met Jerry, it was in the bar at the Ritz-Carlton in New York City, and I had just seen him play the Days Between, and that's what I discussed with him. It was a very short conversation, but I just told him how much I loved the song from just hearing it once, and he was really jazzed about it. He was like, "Oh, yeah, so excited about the way that song's coming out." It was new at the time, and so that was just needed an extra special experience.
That's great. You got to tell him.
Yeah.
And that really, really, what an amazing end point to his songwriting career.
Yeah, exactly.
The depth.
It puts the whole ending on the thing, man. It describes the whole picture.
Lyrically, yeah. The whole picture, yeah, for sure.
I see a certain set of images in my mind as I'm singing it, and new ones come along to populate the song. I'll tell you something. One of the reasons
that third verse particularly.
Oh God. Well, all of them, because really it's our story too. Right. We were there for a lot of those things, and the song is about the internal Grateful Dead story, but it's also about the part of the story that we were along for.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to burrow into it so deeply.
I can't sing that song without getting emotionally brought up. It brings up a lot of emotion.
Likewise,
you make a great point, David. That's probably largely why too. It's not just I'm feeling empathy for Garcia and Hunter, but I'm feeling it, like you said, part of that journey too. Walked halfway around the world on the promise of the glow.
We sure did. Enlightening on unfocused eyes. How many times did that happen to you?
Yeah.
How lucky we are to have gotten to experience that.
I know. It's remarkable. So many people we see at Dark Star shows now are people who never got to see the Grateful Dead. They've seen all the various subsequent projects that the Dead and the other ones, and Further, Dead and Company, Red Dog maybe, but we take it for granted. I haven't seen the Dead hundreds of times. We were so lucky. It's like that meme you see on the internet. I'm paraphrasing, but like when you're feeling bad, just think about out of the billions of years the Earth has been here, you were here at the same time as Jerry Garcia.
Yeah. But we are now part of the Grateful Dead musical diaspora. We adopted it. Like Jay Blakesberg said to me, I did an essay for his Grateful Dead, his last book, right? And we did an interview, and he said, "We're so lucky we got that Grateful Dead strand of DNA. We could have been like in the death metal DNA." It's so true that we were the people that we were among the people that were attracted to this thing and became practitioners of it, and now we're part of what's carrying it forward, each in our own way, and we have very different ways of doing that.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Listen, that's funny because when I think of you, David, and when I think of you, Jeff, we're the two planets, so to speak, of where you're coming from in the Grateful Dead world is both so equally important to me in terms of, this is music that demands reinterpretation in a sense, and, given in the, that it's a world of improvisation. But at the same time, like you were saying, Jeff, there are so many people that you guys are playing to, that we're all playing to, that have never seen the Grateful Dead, that only gets to hear it on recordings, which is way different than seeing a live show.
Yeah.
And, to be able to provide someone with something that's at least as close as possible to what that experience might have been, is important, to carry on throughout history. So
I had that happen to me directly. I was this was way long ago. I can't remember what year. It would have been like early 2000s at Nelson Ledge's Quarry Park. Dark Star Orchestra was on stage. The previous time I saw DSO, they did like a 1983 show at the Fillmore, and I thought, what the fuck? Why would you do a 1983 show at the Fillmore? So they didn't make as great a first impression. I mean, they did it well, but So the next time I saw them, I was on a festival bill with them out in Ohio, and they were playing a 1978 show. This was back when Scott Larned was still alive, way back in the early days. And they were doing a 1978 show, and I'm standing there in the dirt with all these kids dancing around me, and I'm listening to it with my eyes closed, and I'm thinking, this is exactly what it felt like to be in that audience. Sonically, this is what it felt like. And as if on cue, this young woman says to me, "I'm so glad I get a chance to get a sense of what it must have felt like," And I went, "Yeah, cool. That's what that's for."
Yeah.
And and it frees up Bob Weir to go do what he's doing now. He doesn't have to do that anymore because, Eaton's got it covered, kind of.
The best is the two play together. It's kind of funny. Last time Bobby played with us, I think it was at the Great American, and Bob went to the mic and said, we played a song or two without Eaton, and then he insisted Eaton come up and play, and then he steps to the mic and says, "What we have here is too much of a good thing."
That's so
I do say so myself.
Last time I sat in with you guys, Eaton made me do it by myself.
What do you mean?
At the Great American, he sat out when I sat in. I thought it was fun to have three, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's kind of thing about three guitar players. I guess unless one of them's Bob Weir.
Right. Remember the room, right?
Then he goes, "Well, I'll make an exception for Bob."
I didn't feel singled out or nothing.
No, they were one guitar short of a country band, I guess, at that point.
Well, It does take extra skill to do that well. Like you think about how beautifully Buffalo Springfield orchestrated 3 guitars, you know. I feel like that's the epitome of how you make 3 guitars work. But that's work. That's, you know, that's working shit out, orchestrating it. When you're up there jamming, it's just more a matter of trying not to make things too thick.
Right. And it gets I mean, that's one of the things, not to go in a negative direction, but it sometimes in the 90s there, when with 2 drummers and 2 guitar players and 2 keyboard players, it just got a bit much, man. It just was like, oh, I can't process all this at the same time.
Yeah, I often say it sounds like a carnival.
Beautiful stuff, you know. It just was like, oh, onslaught. And then, like, I remember one New Year's, you tell me the year, but with they had Bruce and Vince, and they also had Branford playing with them. And you think, wow, perfect storm, everybody's there. But it was I just heard it on the radio, and it was just too much to process or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the greatest things that I learned, my guitar playing embodies a lot of Bob Weir and a lot of Jerry Garcia and various other things. And I really feel like one of the most important things I got from Weir was brevity and economy, and not slamming out solid bars of shit, right? Like even when I'm the only guitar player, I play less than usual, because it feels like that thing of using it of punctuating other people's conversation that Bob got to do so much is like just an important thing to have learned from him, I think.
I always thought it was interesting that it seemed like in the early days there were all such iconoclastic players, you know. They were so unique, but they all wanted everybody else to play like a normal, like they wanted Bob to play like a normal rhythm guitar and Phil to play on the one on root every once in a while, you know, kind of a thing.
Right. Imagine that.
Who showed who?
I play like nobody else, but can't you play like a normal person?
I always thought that was kind of like one of the reasons Jerry had so much fun in that other band was people just played normal shit for a while.
Yeah. I mean, John Conn, Phil Lesh, very different players, man. Very different.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that right now. I'm enjoying the hell out of Don Was, but he also is like, have you seen any of that stuff?
I haven't seen it live, but I was watching it on the YouTube the other day. Great with the horns and the strings and everything. Oh man,
sounds
really
great. Yeah.
He keeps to the basement for the most part, but he's just as solid as shit, and he's got a great groove. You know?
Yeah.
Right, it's nice hearing the stand up too. It's a little the sound of it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny the whole not playing on the one thing and everything is. I have this theory that because Phil refused to play on the one and insisted on playing, you know, the way he does, that's what sort of forced Garcia into being such a unique player. I mean, if you really listen, the bass lines that would normally be missing from, you know, certain lines leading up to choruses or whatever, Jerry's doing all those lines, you know, all those lead ups and everything. And so I don't think he ever would have even thought of doing something like that.
I think that they took the one as a given, and nobody belabored the fucking one. And so everybody was doing stuff to define the one and doing everything except playing on it. So Jerry's playing a structure that leads up to that, and somebody else plays a response coming out. You know what I mean? But nobody's going wham on the one.
For sure, right.
So everybody was sort of dancing around the beat, which what made the dancing to the Grateful Dead such an interesting proposition.
Yeah, man. And then when they got into the freer form stuff, one became irrelevant anyway, you know. I remember learning that early on, playing with a drummer who understood the music, and we were playing the band. This is really early in my playing days, and we're in the jam, and I look at him and I go, "Where's one?" And he went, "One." Right there. How about that one?
Oh, that's great. Well, as in our interview in '81, Jerry said that the saying in the band was "the one is where you think it is."
I was going to refer to that, but of course I didn't know the year, but I remember that.
One.
That's right. That's how you count it. Yeah, for sure.
Now, we Jeff and I are sort of roughly contemporary musicians, and I also played in bands that really got into like the Roadhouse country rock type stuff. That we've bonded over Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen, and as well as the New Riders and stuff. And I think there was a '70s country rock vibe that we subscribe to and have as a common thread, kind of.
Yeah.
And it all bespeaks the fact that we absorb the Grateful Dead and we're really, really deeply into the Grateful Dead, but not to the exclusion of other stuff.
Oh no!
Yeah.
But I went through a period like when I was a teenager, when I got pulled into the Dead scene, where I was like tunnel vision, and I didn't want to hear. I mean, I had been into other things before, but for a few years, I was just Grateful Dead, and then it's when you realize that their influences come from so many different places, and then if you have any curiosity about music, you want to hear what that stuff is, and then you realize that the world is full of beautiful, all different kinds of music, and I live for it.
Yeah, so in fact, when I popped into one of the rooms before here, they said I should ask you what you have on your iPod. And I've heard before that you're like a walking encyclopedia of all music, so not surprised that he'd be interested.
I have 4 of them that I go on the road with.
Well, give me all the songs that are on there right now, starting with the first
3. Filled up 3, and now I'm filling up the 4th one right now. And so it's basically like, I'll just drop everything. I have thousands and thousands of CDs here, and I just drop everything on so that when I go on the road, I can pull out anything I get to.
Is there a thread to your listening, a theme to your listening, or do you take particular, like, I think I'm going to go listen to a bunch of honky tonk on this tour or whatever?
No, well, sometimes I'll pick something out that I feel like I haven't. I need to delve into it, and then I'll like some group, and then I'll say what I do is after the show is over, soon after the show is over, I get in my bunk, and I frequently listen to music for about 4 or 5 hours in the dark there with headphones on. That's my joy on the road, other than playing. And frequently I'm up to like 4 or 5 in the morning listening to music after a show. So I'll pick an artist, and every day I'll say I'll listen to a different album by them. But the beautiful thing about that situation for me is I get to listen to a whole album. Have so many albums, so much music today. The albums are so long, the CDs are so long that you frequently, like, I think I've only heard the first 7 songs on that CD.
Yeah. So I miss going on tour. That was where I got any serious listening done.
Exactly.
And I would, because of my day job, I would stuff my phone full of Grateful Dead concerts to review for broadcast, right?
Yeah.
But check this out. See if this happens to you. I would listen to one thing and go, holy shit, I got to hear that again. That happened to me some years ago with March 26th, 1973. It was the first thing I put in my car on my way to go out on tour. And I was so blown away by it that I listened to it again and again and again and again. And I probably put like 3,000 miles on that one concert and didn't listen to the other stuff I'd brought along. That happened to me with Love and Theft back in 2001.
Oh, man, yeah.
I couldn't stop listening to that for like about several weeks. And then I'll tell you another thing, just to mention an obscure guy that you'd never heard of, but I wish you had. That happened to me with a record by a guy named Galen Kapar, who isn't really working anymore, and it's a damn shame. I was talking about him with Scott before the show here today. Aaron Schultz gave me this guy's album, and asked me to listen to it on, and I started listening to it on tour and I could not stop. I just fell completely in love with this guy's thing. And I must have listened to it like 30 times in a row. Has that ever happened to you when you get like hooked on something?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the nice things too about the pandemic is that I've had time. My wife and I, we've had little themes at home, like we I remember for a couple of weeks we had like a classical hour every day where we listened to a different classical piece, and then another time every day we started from the beginning. We listened to every Wilco album, over a week and a half or whatever it took. So
do you listen to Grateful Dead with the DSO people, like on your way to shows? Do you listen to the era you're about to play a gig from?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have we find out what shows we're going to do before we go on tour, and I make sure they're all loaded into my iPod. Now not everybody listens to, but most of us will listen to. We don't listen to the whole show because it's time consuming, but well, it's there isn't always time to listen to like a 4-hour show, So, but we will go through it and hear all the important parts and check how this transition. We do our own transitions, but if there's anything unusual about the show or the versions they did, we just check that out. And I like to just get in the mindset, the vibe of the show. So if we're doing a '69 show, it helps to listen to that show or before I play, and then I'm in that headspace.
Do you feel more aggressive as a human being when you're playing a '69 show than when you're playing a '73 show?
Oh yeah.
Because the energy, Jerry's energy, is so different in those two.
God, it's those '69 shows are exhausting to play.
Yeah.
I love to play it. Don't get me wrong. I love to play those shows, but it's the full time, man. Even if you're playing Dark Star, man, they were in their 20s. They had all this vigor, and I'm 62 years old. But I go there and I just get more tired. That's all. I'm always glad when the show ends with a little "and we bid you good night." Okay, I can put my hands down for a minute. Feedback,
Hey, there's a question about having you guys talk about playing with Phil.
Something we've all done.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah,
It's been a while for me, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I played with him back in 1999. Rob Baracco and I went out there, and at that point, Phil was really into rehearsing, and so we rehearsed at the place in Novato there for a week or 10 days for 3 shows at the Warfield. And that was a wonderful experience. And then I didn't really play with Phil for a long time after that, so maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I went out and played at Terrapin. I mean, I played with him when he sat in with Dark Star, but I hadn't done a Phil and Friends show until about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. Playing out in the back there with who was playing Barry Sliss and John Molo and Rob Eaton and Rob Baracco. And then I think we recreated one of the Dylan and the Dead shows, and then he had Scott Law and Ross came up and sang the Dylan songs, but we played. That was fun.
Where'd you say that was?
I'm happy to sing the Dylan songs too. But I know you play with them all the time, right, Scott?
Yeah, it's been a while, obviously, since I've played with anyone. But yeah, very lucky to play with him. Pretty often amongst a group of keyboardists. So that's really, really cool. Dream come true for me.
Sure.
I'm sure you could relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up listening to them and, watching them play, and just, I couldn't do anything other than imagine myself behind that keyboard, doing what Brent was doing. That was my era. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all just a weird, surreal dream come true.
Sure. I mean, to get, I think I might have mentioned it when I did the pre-interview for this, but like, it was like singing Box of Rain and playing like New Potato Caboose and Unbroken Chain, particularly, where like, holy shit, I've been playing these songs for years and years, and now I'm playing with the man who wrote them.
Yeah.
It's very special.
Yeah. It's funny. I always I think of this all, speaking of Box of Rain, the Moth Before the Flame thing, where on stage I want to soak it all in, and go, yeah, this is what I've been thinking about doing since I was 18 years old or whatever. But of course, then I'll screw up everything I'm playing and forget the next part.
You have to do it. Yeah, you have to do that. You have to take a minute or two and let that step outside for. I mean, it's not good for the music, like you say.
Right. I would say less than a minute. You have to do it.
Right, exactly. You got to take that mental picture, and just feel it. It's just like, otherwise the show will be over and like, what happened out there? I wish I could have been there for that,
Yeah.
I was responsible. I was the band leader for the gigs when he was guesting with us, so I had a very different experience. I didn't have the opportunity to take it in. I was too busy doing it. Yeah, later I figured, holy shit, what just happened? Like that first time when he sat in with us at the Ashkenaz in September of '97, that was just mind blowing, but there was so much traffic going on that stage and stuff that it barely registered at the time.
I'm sure.
And it was up there too.
It's funny, the Grateful Dead always, talk about how, and a lot of interviews that I've heard with you and Jerry, Jerry will often say stuff like, well, we were just living it. So we weren't really, saying this is great or whatever, this is fun or this isn't, and that's so much what life is about. And I always think to myself that's the difference with, like, imagining this dream your whole life that finally does come true, is that you get to do that. You get to, just what we were saying, you get to sit back for a second and say, oh, I've been planning on this. So let me see, does it feel like I always thought it would, as opposed to, just, traveling through life, things happening to you on the way,
Yeah. I mean, it's been, I said it many times, when the highlights of my career have been all the wonderful people that I've been a fan of my whole life, to getting to play with them, so many of them. That's been a joy.
Yeah. We've both been at it for so long. I'll tell you, I don't know if you know, but I used to go see you at the Right Track Inn. I probably mentioned this to you, but I don't know if you remember. But maybe it started every Thursday, and then it turned into every Friday, if I remember correctly.
Every Saturday for like 9 years or something like that.
Okay, yeah. And I don't know, I don't even know how I got in. I think back in those days they didn't ask for ID, but maybe it was all ages or something.
No.
I was young, and I was going to see you, and I didn't have a problem getting in. Let's just leave it at that.
Pictures on New York licenses back then.
That's right. Okay, that's right. Yeah, and I had a license that my cousin gave me that was way too old for me, that I ended up just erasing the year, I think, into, one digit, like literally with a pencil eraser, and writing it in, and it worked. So don't tell anybody. That's how good the IDs were back then.
Limitations might have ran out.
But yeah, so that was the Volunteers, if I remember correctly. And at some point, those regular shows, the band, maybe you picked up different members or changed members, and at some point you changed the name to Zen Tricksters. And forgive me if you've already talked about this in one of the pre-interviews or anything, but I've always wondered, how did that happen? Why did you, and my friends had this theory that, they must be getting paid now, so they can't call themselves the Volunteers.
Well, that was like, how people always say, you like the Grateful Dead. They say, "Oh, I'll be grateful if they're dead." Like
Right.
a joke you never heard before. Well, like we'd say, "We're the Volunteers." Oh, does that mean you play for free?
Right. I bet.
Truth was, well, it's a long sordid story, but the short end of it is that our lawyer told us to change the name because we could never copyright anything that had to do with the Volunteers. There was way too many people who owned the name Volunteers. Volunteers for America, the University of Tennessee Marching Band. I think there was even a band on Arista called the Volunteers at one point. So they said, pick something no one else has. And if you ever want to sell a T-shirt or a CD or anything like that. So I don't think there's been a lot of Zen tricksters.
Yeah,
that turned out to be really good advice. It probably seemed crass and pointless at the time, but it was very good advice.
Yeah, and truth is, I joined right after they became the Volunteers. I never would have voted for that name to start with. It was really misleading. People either thought we were a Jefferson Airplane cover band or like Charlie Daniels Volunteer Jam thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
But you did stuff like Graham Parsons tunes and things like that too, right? I mean, I think I remember seeing set lists from back then.
Well,
You weren't just doing Dead songs, were you?
No, we always did Grateful Dead, of course, and we always did original music. And then we just felt like we'll play anything we want, we're a band. So, over the years, we played hundreds and hundreds of songs that don't fall into the original or Grateful Dead categories. And then there's always been little spin-offs. I had a thing in the 80s called the Jeff Mattson Band that played a lot small places during the week. And we knew like 400 songs. And was the only criteria was I had to like the song.
That's good criteria.
I mean, we played like everything from like Sunday Will Never Be the Same to like Mercy, 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 anything. This jazz tunes, if it rained, we play like April Showers, anything I could think of.
Yeah, I remember maybe you guys started playing at the Wetlands, if I'm not mistaken, right, for Grateful Dead nights. And I remember at that period, I remember seeing you guys play some real obscure tunes, which I was really impressed with. And all that stuff was, an influence on me. I didn't start playing, I was still in high school, so I didn't start playing in Grateful Dead tribute bands until I got to college. And, that was my first taste of it, seeing you guys. It's really cool.
Madness set in.
What's that?
The madness set in. You're bringing it.
That's right. You guys
I tell people that the Grateful Dead were a bar band that made big and played stadiums, but always kept that bar band ethos. They really were just, they were doing exactly what you just said, originals, and other stuff and jamming like motherfuckers. But that other stuff was the thing that it was, everything was fodder. Any song anybody thought was cool, they'd bring it in and people would play it together and stuff. And it wasn't just about doing the one thing, it was about doing it all.
I agree fully. And I think Jerry Band is even more so.
Hell yeah. That's why I fell in love with the Rumpke Mountain Boys. They invited me out to play some gigs with them, and I went on the bus with them, and all four of them were like total song freaks. And they all spent the whole tour just turning each other on to tunes, and then they'd listen to them and then play them at the gig that night and stuff. It was like just completely by the seat of their pants. It was just great fun to be watching that.
Yeah, there's such a great freedom to that. So I heard you say that you questioned, whether or not you wanted to play Grateful Dead forever,
exclusively.
Right.
I always had that thing of like, I could play anything I wanted, even though we were notorious for being able to play Grateful Dead well. And largely that was what people wanted to see us do. But we, maybe to our detriment, we were kind of caught in the middle, so we didn't really get respect because like people in the industry thought of us as a cover band, and then a lot of the people who came to see us play Grateful Dead weren't really crazy about hearing us play anything else. So we just kind of shoved it down everybody's throat anyway. I think we might have been more successful if we picked a line. I always knew, when Dark Star came around, I said, well, I always knew that was an option to do what they're doing, and obviously, I saw how successful they were in the days before I was in the band. I said, well, that proves it. If we would have gone all Grateful Dead, we might have been a lot more successful. But by the same token, we never got. I mean, we got to make records of our original music, and we insisted on playing it anyway. Like I said,
right.
There was always a coterie of folks that enjoyed our original music, so it was worth it. It wasn't. I don't mean to make it sound like it was completely an uphill struggle. It was. It fit in. But, actually.
Let me ask you this: is rock and roll your favorite, and has it always been your favorite genre, or do you prefer to listen to classical?
Oh no, classical is just one part. I mean, I'm not big on the whole categorization thing. I know it's kind of a cliche, but sometimes I feel like listening to bluegrass. Sometimes I feel like classical. I put on Bitches Brew Hour. Miles Davis yesterday was cranking that up and loving that, and I love Sonic Youth. I like Pearl Jam, for Christ's sakes. It's like it's all good.
It's all good. You don't have a favorite?
Probably the Dead, Dylan, Richard Thompson are probably my top 3 favorite things. But I love so much stuff. There's so much.
We have a dinner time tradition of listening to this thing on satellite radio. It's Francophone country from Canada. It's like a 70s country rock station, but it's all in French. So it's kind of like it sounds and feels exactly like this music, but you don't have to actually listen to it because you don't understand what it is. It's great dinner time music.
I was going to say, after a few years of that, maybe you could speak French.
Yeah.
Or sing French anyway.
Right. That would come first, yeah.
I can only speak French if I sing it.
I don't know what I'm singing, but
let's talk about Donna Jean.
Please.
I talked to her on the phone the other day. She talked to us on Tales about the remix and stuff. But
oh yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, let's tell us about Donna Jean, man. What a joy it is to sing with her, eh?
Yes, I mean, I'm just happy to say that we're very close. We've been we became fast friends when we met in 2005, I guess, and right away we realized that we were very simpatico musically and personally too. So we've just had a great time playing together and being friends and we were written a bunch of songs together. She's just as sweet as can be. She's funny and she's much maligned as a singer. She's a great singer.
I remember really enjoying that song, Me and Kettle Joe Psychedelic Swamp Review.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a fun experiment. Yeah, you talked about how unwieldy the names were for these bands, but
yeah,
that
was I'm ashamed to say I came up with that name.
Did the song exist before that, or did she write Me and Kettle Joe after you named the band?
She wrote it first. That's where it came. I mean, it's Kettle Joe is Garcia. That's what the song is about.
Now you tell me. I had to go back and listen to it again.
So, Kettle Joe's Psychedelic Swamp Review. It sort of covered the whole thing, but it never fit on any marquee. No one knew who it was. So I also came up with Donna Jean and the Tricksters, and that was a much better name.
That is a good one. Yeah.
I like that, and I like that band a lot too.
Me too. Yeah.
It was the same
Where-
band. It was the same band. We just changed the name.
Right.
to less
Where did you record that album with her?
Well, that album, the Don and Gene Tricksters, we recorded on Long Island, and then several years after that, we recorded the Don and Gene Gotcho Band with Jeff Mattson, an album called Back Around, and we recorded that in Muscle Shoals. Can the camera see this? There we go.
Yeah.
Well, that must have been incredible recording there. Tons
Yeah.
of history there.
At the Nut House, that's a studio down there.
Oh yeah, we when Donna Jean, I got to fly down to Alabama and induct her into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame a few years ago, which entailed wearing a tux and stuff.
Oh,
And we did Tales from the Golden Road from the Nut House with Norbert Putnam and God, the keyboard player Spooner Oldham.
yeah.
Oh,
Donna Jean telling stories and Will
McFarlane.
McFarland. Thank you.
cool.
Anyway, that's a fun studio, and the Nuts are great people.
Yeah, they really are. And we had the Muscle Shoals horns on the record and everything, But it's true. It's like just playing down there. It's the whole. We want to talk about swampy
Yeah.
vibe down there, and I think we got a hold. That's a record I'm probably most proud of all the records I've done over the years.
Yeah. Oh, good.
We did
Good one.
covers on there too. We did our own versions of them. We did Darkness, the Young Bloods, and we did a version of 19th Nervous Breakdown,
Great versions.
and one of She Said, the Beatles tune.
Yeah, really nice arrangements of those things. What's the story on this remix, this Shelter remix?
Oh, well, see, that was a song that was on the Don and Gene the Tricksters record that Don and I wrote together. And we both felt like it was something really special. I mean, even the simple demo of it really had some mojo in it. And somehow, when we did it in the studio, it came out fine. But we didn't really think we got it. And so all these years Donna and I have been talking about, it'd be great to go in there and get some of these Muscle Shoals singers in there to beef up the background harmonies, get that sound. And they finally got around to doing it this year. And they also beefed up the rhythm track. David McKay, her husband, great, fantastic bass player, played, put some more bass down on it. And Jimmy Nutt himself put some more drums to it, gave it a little more of a tribal feel. And wow, really nailed it. I am just so pleased with that. So, it's just a download, but it's on the Spotify and all those places. But just Donna Jean and the Tricksters, Shelter, Muscle Shoals remix. So that's what you just have to ask for.
Cool.
And it's one of the things I'm most happy with.
That's gonna. I just put it into next week's Grateful Dead hour, so people will get to hear it out there on in my radio world too. We played it on. We had Deej on for a phone interview on Tales last Sunday.
Yeah, I was listening.
Track then that was fun. It's always fun to have her on. The first time we ever had her on, she found out she could say "fuck." It was a great moment in broadcasting history.
I think I was on with her that time. We've been there a bunch of times. Oh, I know. She's so funny.
I got to
A little salty now and then.
Conspire with Tom Davis to engineer a reunion with Donna Jean at the Vibes once. When Tom Davis's book came out, his 30 years of short-term memory loss.
Yeah.
He came around on a tour, and I interviewed him in my living room for my radio show. I just had a wonderful time with him. He told great stories. Told about getting really, really high on acid and just walking. He was at Winterland seeing the Dead in October of '70, and he just walked right up. He was so high, he just walked up like the king of the place, all the way through to the back and up on stage. It was a great story. After we had this interview, was sometime before the Vibes, and I invited him to come out to the Vibes, and I orchestrated a reunion of them in the lobby of the hotel up there in Shelton. When she checked in, Tom Davis checked in, there was Donna Jean. It was just a wonderful moment.
Yeah, I remember you introduced him to me. That was when we were there with Donna Jean Gotcha Band, and he was really complimentary about the band. He really had it. And then he came to a show we did Bearsville one time. Before
Right, he lived up there.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Tom Davis.
Hmm.
Yep.
You record any other albums? Like, I know you and I are on Falzerano's album. You do any other kind of like
Christmas record
like that? Or?
That was great. That Christmas record.
Oh, it's so great! It's awesome.
Yeah, that album came out really nice.
Yeah. Do you do anything else like that? Like a random kind of play on people's, recordings and stuff?
Well, there's a musician on Long Island named Russ Seeger who was in a band called the Sheiks. It might be before your time. They were a great band. Anyway, yeah, I just played on a tune on his album, but called Tracks by Russ Seeger. Very nice. He said he wanted someone to kind of do the Garcia thing, and it was a song called The Wheel, but it wasn't The Wheel. It was,
that could be confusing.
I played on the song, and I don't think I played anything like Garcia at all. So, but he was very happy with it anyway. I can't, play on a record and just try to play like Garcia. I got to play like myself.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of Garcia in there, but there's a lot of all sorts of other stuff too.
Yeah, there's no denying it's in there. But when I play, I have a side band, Jeff Mattson and Friends, with Rob Baracco, Skip Vangelis, Lisa Mackey from Dark Star, and Rob Baracco's son, Tom Baracco, plays drums. And we obviously haven't played it all this year, but we were playing between TSO tours and just at this point, just on the East Coast. But there's, again, we played a lot of my original music, and didn't really play. Maybe at the beginning we played a little Grateful Dead, but we cut it down to just playing Garcia band tunes because we don't get to play them as much with Dark Star anyway. And then anything else, it's kind of like going back to what I did with the Zen Tricksters.
I'm a big supporter of original music. I had a realization about myself the other day. I play this Rick Turner Renaissance RS6, which is both an acoustic and an electric guitar. And I leave the blend pot right in the middle, so it has the characteristics of both an acoustic and electric. It's like a perfect instrument for solo looping artists. And I have, oh Jesus, I realized when I was playing the other day that when I'm soloing and jamming with myself in a loop, the guitar sound that I'm hearing is Jerry from '74. I saw so many shows at Winterland in '74, and I got close and I just watched him, and there was this whole just that early '70s era, '73 and '74 had this sort of relaxed grace to them. Even the intense stuff was just like unhurried, you know what I mean? It was all coked up and shit, in other words. But I just realized that my internalized ideal of what a guitar solo should sound like is that sort of every note is really considered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That era is what I'm
very clear and clean and bright sounding. I know I love playing I would say I love playing it all, but most fun sometimes is doing that 72 through 74 era for me. I have a Fender Stratocaster that's been modified to accept all the RCS electronics in it. But I just use for those shows. I just plug it into a wah-wah pedal right into the amp. It's nice and clear and clean. And then, of course, last year I got to play Alligator at the Warfield. Jerry's guitar. I've seen pictures of you guys, so you know what I'm talking about. That guitar, that was the one that sucked me in. Like when I get Europe '72, that's when I lost all reason. And
Yeah, well, I was there that night.
'72, and that was the sound for me. So to get to play that guitar. Well,
I was there that night. You made it sound like Alligator, so you did a good job.
Well, when it is Alligator, it's not the.
Yeah, there's the clarity, the audio clarity, and the sort of gestalt, the quality of the mind meld in those days that's the thing that made us lifers, right?
Yeah.
Getting to hear the Dead doing that and seeing what they could do and feeling the incredible magic of that collaboration at its best.
Right.
That's what inspired guys like us to do what we did in our own voices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there was something, no disrespect to Mickey Hart, but there was something about the one drummer thing that left a lot more space and easier to turn corners rhythmically.
And if that's what you want, that's the thing that I like the best about it, and that's definitely my favorite era. After the second drummer returns, things sort of became more groove oriented and less concerned with turning corners.
Yeah, that's arguable.
Well, it became harder to do that thing.
It became harder to do. It became more of a challenge. But I will say, just like with any other band that anybody's had the privilege of seeing, last for a long time, even if it changes some members here and there, the Grateful Dead, portrayed a lot of those same traits that a band that would be around for a very long time could, even with the two drummers. And, by the late 80s, and even in large stadiums, they were able to carry on these jams that, to me, certainly sounded like, and to quote Bobby, like they were seeing around corners. It really was impressive.
Please, I was not denigrating the later era. It was just qualitatively different. I mean, it's the way they made music was very different for a number of factors. We talked about it earlier with that density of the 7-man lineup.
Yeah. That's a whole new thing there. Yeah. Of course.
It is a value judgment in a sense, because I would rather listen to the 73, 74 stuff than almost anything later, but that's just my personal opinion.
Plus, they had to play differently to play in a stadium,
Yes,
of course. Yeah.
Stadium. You need to record grander gestures and that kind of thing, some of the delicacy you hear in the early era, I don't think would fly in Giant Stadium.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but again, there was a real control of dynamics that no other band that played in the stadium ever had.
I mean,
Jerry told Blair Jackson in an interview that every second set has that moment of perfect silence deep in it, and it's like
absolutely
in Stella Blue, right? You know exactly where that moment is in Stella Blue. And as Scott is saying, they fucking did that at stadiums in front of 60,000 people.
Yes.
And as Gary Lambert is so fond of pointing out, they played 10, 12 minutes of absolutely abstract music in front of 60,000 people at a time too.
Yeah.
That I always got extreme joy from. They're playing atonally and disjointedly and gloriously in front of 80,000 people.
and let's
can't get mine, but that's the way it always is anyway.
let's not forget blatantly drug oriented in the time of a war on drugs, so where it was just completely frowned upon in mainstream society. So I think that's also real interesting.
I'm in New York, so now I can try it.
Yes. Okay. Good. Let me know how it goes.
I'm going to see what the fuss is all about.
We should thank Rose and Mike and Bill for making all of this happen. This is Rose's idea, and Mike and Bill are the guys that make it actually come through the pipes and out into people's brains. And thank you so much, all of you, for being part of it. And now we're going to hang around after and go to these rooms, right?
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. This has been a blast.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you.
We could talk for another 2-3 hours, no problem. But we won't.
Thank you. Thanks again, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Your wishes all come true. May you always do for others, and let others do for you. Do you build a ladder to the stars? Climb on every road and be
This is not only spontaneous and unrehearsed, we haven't even really talked about what we're going to do. This is how I like to do it. This is what I call real improvisation. Nobody makes any dang plans. What you don't get is a slick packaged entertainment, but I think you're okay with that. At least I hope so. I'm staking my career on it. All right. You started. All I know is something like a bird within her sail. All I know, she sang a little while and then flew on. Tell me, I'll let you know, I'll show you snow and rain. If you hear that same sweet song again, will you know why? Anyone who sings a tune so sweet as passing by. The sunshine in the dark, fly through the night. Don't cry now. Don't you cry. Don't cry anymore. La 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 la. Sleeping star. Don't you cry. Dry your eyes all the way. La 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 la. that same sweet song again. Will you know why? Anyone who sings a tune so sweet is passing. Tell me all that you know, I'll show you. Noah Flint on the electric guitar. Dwayne Day on the bass. Thank you both.